All right, welcome back to Russell Street Replay. I'm Nikhil Mehta. With me, as always, is Ronald Tooth. And today we're really excited to have former Ravens wide receiver, Baltimore Super Bowl champion on the podcast, Qadry Ismail. Qadry, thank you so much for joining. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me on, as always, guys. Thanks.
Oh, it's
So
our
what do
pleasure.
you, tell me what you've been up to. Like, what do you do during the off season, kind of, in this period when there's not as much going on? What do you like to get up to?
Well, I think the number one thing is training people. I have my own sports performance business that I run, and basically it's a 24/7. I wouldn't say 24/7, but it's an everyday walk beside experience. And I have clients ranging from 8 years old all the way up to, I think my oldest client is 84.
Wow.
And it's a ton of fun, a lot of opportunity to work with people, help them move better. And at the same time, from an athletic standpoint, get people to recognize just the power of explosive movement, the correct way to protect their, joints and tissue and all that. And I don't know, really am passionate about it, love it. And at the same time, football never stops. So I have my own podcast that I do with on Fridays. It goes on YouTube as well. At the same time, Locked On Ravens is the name of it. At the same time, there's times where I'll be on TV doing my WJZ thing with my guy, Mark Viviano, and Rick Ritter. So it's a lot of fun. Always something, always busy and enjoying life.
Awesome. It's so great to see when a player, has that almost sort of second life after football. You know what I mean? The way that you were able to build your own business and this whole thing. It's just really awesome. But it is funny that you mentioned the training and the, all that kind of stuff, because the elephant in the room, I did kind of want to lead off today with a tweet last week that admittedly kind of ruffled a lot of people's feathers, I guess we'll say, putting it lightly.
Yeah.
For starters, I will say that the people that were in your comments were pretty ridiculous with all that. But I do want to sort of give you a chance to expand on that tweet and sort of let us know what you mean to the more, I guess, less fitness savvy kind of people. And
you want to remind everyone what the tweet was?
Yeah, I was just going to say, before I ask, I'll actually read the tweet here. So it was a video about Lamar Jackson and how he's bulked up this offseason, and Qadry replied, all fun and games until the realization of training is a reverse gear movement, taking him away from the brilliant locomotive movement action he's accustomed to. So yeah, for me, that's pretty much Spanish, if you couldn't tell here. So so if you could just kind of explain it in more layman's terms, what that means.
Of course. So basically, there are two types of movements. There's a linear movement, and it is linear force, which is driven by reverse gear action. There is locomotive movement, which is driven by spiral energy. And both of them, they have their place. And if you were to look at it from the layman's term and say, well, what kind of athlete are we talking about? Ed Reed is the epitome of a locomotive spiral moving athlete. LeBron James is the epitome of a linear moving athlete. Are both amazing men who can, dominate their respective sports at their respective positions. Yep. At the same time, you also look at the spiral energy athlete as a more durable, explosive, elastic moving athlete. And so Lamar Jackson, he falls into that category as an athlete who has some really good locomotive patterns. He's dynamic and explosive, as we all love. And my tweet was more directed to whomever is training him to make sure that you don't fall into the aesthetics. The aesthetics is over in the linear force side of things. The aesthetics says that my muscles are ripped. You can see my tricep, bicep, deltoids. Oh, yeah, I'm ripped. Just go ahead and look at my forearms. I'm just looking all like, yo, which way to the beach? But that comes at a price, because your body doesn't move linearly. Your body doesn't move in reverse gear. And so you're setting yourself up to overcome all that. And that was what I was simply trying to say. Listen, It's all fun and games until you recognize the movement patterns that you put into him to put on mass is actually counterintuitive to the way his body is designed to move. I mean, dude's a brilliant mover, and that's it, plain and simple. And I think the people who, wanted to be cute and funny and witty, and think that, somehow I'm hating. Oh yeah, I'm hating. They have no clue what I do, and they have no clue what Lamar is trying to accomplish. And game recognizes game. I recognize that sustaining excellence takes an awful lot. And to be able to sustain excellence the way Lamar wants to do and even get to higher heights, his body has to go along with him. He has to have that durability. He has to have that ability to be able to withstand the rigors of a collision sport. And we've seen time and time again where brilliant movers have failed because they have trainers who aren't aware. It's not by purposeful. I want to purposefully hurt you. No, that's ignorance unto itself. And I am hating on trainers. No, what I'm saying is in a non-hating way, but in a more defined way, is that let's recognize what a better movement locomotive training is all about. That was simple.
So can you give us an idea like how that translates onto the field, like the two kinds of movement?
Yeah. So for example, a Ed Reed mover, when you watch him move, he's moving what we call in his back chain. So from the top of your head all the way back through your glutes, obviously into the hamstring, the lateral or outside calf, into your bottom of your feet on the outside. You have this incredible structure that is very, very much supporting and strong and durable. And when you train it, it gives you an opportunity to really be able to move smooth and fluidly. There are some guys like, say, a Randy Moss. Randy Moss has that same fluid, strong, durable, elastic, explosive movement. And a Jacoby Jones that we all know and love. Jacoby, he and I, we trained him one time, and he was funny. He was like, "Yo, I don't stretch." Well, when you have elastic strength like he does, and his DNA is just wired for it, bruh, you don't need to stretch. You just kind of like, all right, I'm just gonna go out there and do what I do. So it comes in all shapes and sizes as far as different movers. But there's a certain characteristic that I look for as a spiral locomotive trainer, and that's something that I'm fascinated by. I geek out on. I could talk for days about it, but those are some examples of what you could see on the field as far as dynamic movers.
Gotcha. And now, do you think that there is any chance that maybe adding on these couple extra pounds, even if it does take away from, maybe he's 95% of what he was, because a little bit of that's taken away with the strength. Is it possible that the addition of that weight would add some longevity, or would that also kind of be impacted in a negative way with this kind of training?
So weight, or the mass that you're putting onto your body, linearly speaking, comes at a price, and that price is a steep one, because you're actually tightening up the structure so you can provide more force into the ground and get away from gravity. Gravity is a sworn enemy of speed, especially when you're talking about it linearly. Lamar's asset is his body's ability to be twitchy and have his super fast twitch muscle fibers activate. If you can use it to your advantage and continue to move without injury, and what I mean by that is that there's a level of breakdown that has to happen. So your muscle fibers, when you go to sleep, your hormones and your minerals activate and grow those muscle fibers, the protein and all the things, and so you hypertrophy, you get bigger. And so in that regards, if you can still keep your movement then you're going to be living large. If you can't keep your movement, then yeah, one hit. I've seen it so many times. This isn't just some off the cuff comment to be cute on Twitter, bruh. Like, I've seen dudes look like Tarzan, play like Jane when it comes to life in the NFL. And there's some athletes that look like Jane that can play. So I guess we in this day and time that could be taken the wrong way. But as far as I'm concerned, a guy who is too stiff, there's a level of issue that can come into play and kind of have those micro breakdowns, and injury can occur. So it's a fine line. That's the bottom line. It's a fine line when you do reverse gear movement. Can you overcome it? Sure, but it comes at a price.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much hype for Lamar, and those pictures, him with the big muscles, like you were saying, everyone got really excited about it. Partially because you look at a big arm and then you equate that with throwing power, which obviously is not the case at all. But I think it does speak to how much people are hanging on Lamar Jackson's performance this season. I mean, the from him as a quarterback, right? The excitement of him as a player, his ability to add to his team, what he does for the Ravens, but also the ramifications that a crazy Lamar Jackson season could have on, like, literally the future of the NFL in terms of what his contract is. He's the guy who is trying to get that it feels like he wants that paradigm shifting contract. He wants that contract that is, I'm the best in the game right now. But this year, the onus is on him to kind of go out and prove it. And man, you just don't know if he's going to be able to do it with these weapons. I think that's one of the bigger questions around him. And I think the other one is the O-line. But in terms of Lamar Jackson coming into this season, I don't know if people are more excited to see him run, but I think for the first time, people might be more excited to see him pass in his career than they have before.
I think we love the outside receiver, and I'm an outside receiver, bro. I am like, give me the ball, give it to me all the time. That's how we are wired. Go to, what up? Let's do it. But that's not this offense. I'm going to say a name. You're not going to like what I'm about to tell you. Greg Roman. Okay, I was waiting for the arrows and all the other stuff to come at me. I am not a Greg Roman apologist. I am a fan just like you guys. Yep, I'm in the media. Yep, I'm a former player, but this isn't, it's funny. I like to dialogue about the game and chop it up with guys like yourselves. My guy, Kevin Allstriker on Locked On Ravens, Sarah Ellison, when she and I get on our after our game podcasts and all the things, like, that's just, it's fun. It's like, wow, did you see? So I'm saying this again, I am not a Greg Roman apologist.
The key is you can't say his name in front of the mirror. That's the thing. Because
there you go.
Anywhere else, you think you're good.
For real. I mean, man. So he has a run first, tight end, go to first offense, and it's unconventional. But you have a quarterback that can do it, and you have a tight end that can do it as well. And I think the young guns that are coming in the form of Kohler and Likely, they look like so far so good. They can be strong complementary pieces and do it too. And then you add in the fact that Bully Ball, which was in 2019, and it was at its zenith, you had two dudes in Ronnie Stanley and Orlando Brown Jr. that nobody's talking about, was kick-ass, take names later. And so Ronnie Stanley, from what John is saying, he's feeling really good. Now it's about him getting, back in shape. Mm-hmm. And that tells me that he's passed. So, like, from a training aspect of things, when you got your rehab, there's a sports rehab, and there's, everyday person go to the office rehab. Some trainers unfortunately is stuck in the every day you go back to the office rehab, and they don't realize that you're dealing with an athlete that has to return to play. From what John is saying, it looks like, he's in that phase now of training where it's past the rehab and now into like, oh, buddy, we got to, start worrying about technique and not worrying about the ankle.
Yeah.
So let's pause right there because you got Linderbaum coming up in this mug. You got Moses up on the other side. Okay, what does all that mean? We parting the seas as far as trying to run the ball and run it strong and run it confidently. And at the same time, you're also talking about the receivers in the tight end position. So that gives bully ball back its swagger. Pause 1 second, because yes, now you do go to the outside. You don't have to have mega names and Duvernay and Prochet and Tylan Wallace. You just have to have them do their thing the correct way. But you already got a stud in Bateman who showed when, and especially in the Cleveland game. The Cleveland game showed me an awful lot because you saw Huntley where Huntley was like, shoot, it's man to man. These dudes are coming at me. I need to go ahead and, there it is. Bateman's on the outside. He's the X receiver. Tight end ain't on his side. He's going to have to win on his right. And he was winning time and time again. That showed me enough. That showed me, bruh, man is ready. So, okay, why are we still having this same conversation? And that's my only pushback about the Greg Roman thing of him having a tight end dominant offense. Like, he's got a tight end dominant offense. We got an all pro in Mark Andrews. Wait a minute. That's right. He's like one of the top two guys between him, Kittle, and doggone Kelsey. Roll the dice. I said top two because one of them ain't as good as he is on a consistent basis. Oh, did I just say that out loud? Oh, I did, didn't I? So, mother of
no arguments here.
Right? You see what I'm saying? So, like, what are we talking about here? We got the offensive line retooled. We're going to go ahead and get back your boys and Gus and JK. You bring in, what's our guy, free agent?
Mike Davis.
Thank you. And so, okay, now all of a sudden, he can catch out of the backfield a little bit better than what you anticipated. So, again, I love outside receivers. I am all for that. But when it comes to bully ball, you don't need to have that as priority number one. Absolutely, guys got to make plays, but I just said Bateman made plays. So let's go ahead and isolate bully ball and have Likely out there on a linebacker or a safety playing like he's just a big body receiver. Like, what up? Say something. Come on. That's what Travis Kelce be doing all the time. Last I checked, and I'm not – it's too much pressure to put a Travis Kelce moniker on Likely, but so what? We're going to do it.
I've been on the Likely train since like December, Q. So you're
okay.
Absolutely. Right? I was begging.
He's not just the conductor. He built the train.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm all aboard. I'm jumping on with you. And we saw Kelce in what the AFC Championship game against the Bills. Was the AFC Championship game or was the
divisional?
Divisional. Okay, divisional game. Right?
It should have really been the AFC.
Right, exactly. That was one of the greatest games, right? So what happened? Homeboy was isolated and bam, scored. That's all I'm trying to say. I get it that people geek out, and like I said, I'm on the outside guy, but that's just not this offense.
Yeah, and the crazy part to me is that we saw this kind of offense just a few years ago when it was actually at full strength, setting records. I mean, people like to go back to that Tennessee game, and for outsiders, it's easy to go point at that. But it was one game. I mean, even the Chiefs have a bad game, going back to when they were lighting up 50 points a game. Like, these things just happen, but it's proven that it can work and work at a high level. So the fact that and especially as Ravens fans, like, it's never been a receiver, like the offense has never run through receivers here. And more times than not, it still ends up being pretty damn good. So,
okay. Well, you're saying it's never run through receivers as in before
Yeah, I
Lamar?
can't really, or at least especially in recent times, I can't remember a time where this
Right.
was not a run first offense.
I mean, you're
Correct.
at
Yeah.
100%
No, I got
and
what you're saying. The foundation and blueprint has been, yeah. I got you. Run first. No, I was just going to
I worded
reference.
that weird. My apologies.
No. I was just going to reference 2012, the Anquan Bolden show. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who looks like Anquan right now? Bateman.
Rashad. Absolutely.
Okay. Last I checked, all I know is Anquan ain't running by fools, but I promise you this, that ball's up in the air. That 50-50 ball comes 90-10.
Yep.
With
one
okay.
hand.
I remember the Arizona game at M&T, and they had, I forget, I think it was Peterson that was on Anquan. I think it was him. I could be wrong. Look it up, all you people who want to jump down Qadry's throat for nothing.
Yeah.
But homeboy Joe dropped back the pass, and he was like, F. Scott Fitzgerald, all this. I'm slinging it out to my boy Anquan. Anquan did not separate at all, but Anquan got just in front of him, and bam, he just snatches the ball in the air, touchdown. Like, that's just what you need. You just need to make the play and catch it, and I believe that's where you're going to have Bateman come up in there and do work.
Yeah, so Bateman is the trendy pick, and there's obvious reasons. First round pick, his tape is the best. He's looked the best last year. I mean, Wallace and Proche and Duvernay were healthy all year and never managed to get the opportunities that Bateman did and do as well as he did when they were on the field. But it is true. I mean, you're gonna have other teams keying on Andrews and keying on Bateman in these obvious passing situations, and in those situations, it's going to be tough for you to run the ball to get the first down. I'm talking your third and longs, late in the game drives, that kind of thing. And I just can't figure out which one of the other receivers is going to be that real number 2 guy. And I'm really hoping it's not I'm hoping one of them steps up as a clear number 2, and it's not kind of we got to hope they can pull it together just enough every week. And I can't really decide who that is. Our buddy over at RSReplay Report, Darren McCann, was writing about Tylan Wallace this morning. Duvernay's the earlier round pick. He's a third rounder who's, been a great returner for us. So, he's got that agility. But, I mean, my guy is Proche. And I just think I just see that attitude. I mean, I think I read it or tweeted it earlier. Like, he's got that dog in him. Like, you see that alpha mentality. And, anytime he's on the field, he didn't get that many snaps. But every time it just felt like he was getting open and making plays. And I just think, those additional opportunities. Who do you guys think is going to be that other wide receiver to really come to the fold this year? Or is it going to be someone who's not on the Ravens yet?
Man, there we go. That phrase right there, it killed it. Not on the Ravens yet. Why? I don't know about.
I don't want one for the record.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know either. I'm saying there's nothing that there's no red flag. There's no intuition. Like, ooh, boy, I don't know. Gee, there's nothing that says otherwise. The fact that you have somewhat of a luxury, not much, but you have somewhat of a luxury to not have to go out there and look for a guy, because that gives you a little bit of wiggle room if you're Eric, because now during training camp, if another guy, maybe goes down or, knock on wood, hopefully not, that doesn't happen. But, there's another position need filled. Maybe there's another D line or linebacker or, old lineman that is just too good to pass up. I don't want to just say, receiver. So I think, again, as we talked about, as far as the offensive position, if you're not prioritizing it, then that would, in my mind, be a waste to try to get somebody. And that would be a waste because you're not prioritizing it. You kind of revealed your hand in Kohler and Likely, like I said. Even Oliver, for that matter, it depends on what they want to do at the tight end position. But I think you just revealed your hand and showed that, we're going to ride or die with the way we have our receivers and not necessarily have to upgrade them. That's my opinion, how I'm viewing it.
Yeah, I mean it's an old saying in Baltimore Orioles former manager Buck Showalter. Someone asked him about the team's starting pitching or the team's lineup, and he basically looked at the report and said, "You know what? I like our guys," and that's how I feel about this wide receiver group. I just think that they're three good players that we drafted over the last 2 seasons, and I'm saying beyond Bateman. And at a certain point, you've got to trust that you did a good job evaluating them, and you've done a good job, training them up in the NFL, and that they're ready to just go be NFL players and full-time NFL players, right? You have to trust that eventually.
I think T. Martin now comes into the mix too. Now there's a lot more responsibility as far as you being a pro and understanding, improving your craft. Obviously, that's where guys going down to FAU. Shout out Boca. But they're going to go down to FAU, right across the street, that Whole Food store, largest on the East Coast. Bam, go ahead, get yourself some good food. Don't get big. Big the wrong way. But with that said, like them dudes, like if T is showing me, these are some of the little things that I see in your game that, you need to improve upon. And if you can work that, then I think that's good. The fact that, you're down there with your quarterback in Lamar, bruh. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm trying to catch everything. I'm trying to get in his ear. Yo, man, I felt really good on that. What you think about that deep crossing route? Oh, yeah, if you got time, bruh, just look at me. I'm the third guy right there. But see, everybody else is double team. So
that's what's going to happen. It's going to be that third guy after Bateman and Andrews because – there are going to be those obvious passing situations, and those are the two guys that everyone's talking about right now.
So if it's 13 personnel, then that means you're going to have one back and 3 tight ends. And, if there is a likely or Kohler mismatch, then Lamar's going to do that. I know what you're saying, though. There's going to be teams where you call it horses for courses, where, there's going to be some matchup where you're going to have to, have that 3 wide receiver look. And yes, you're absolutely right. You could take away, one of those receivers could be, likely and split out wide and you have, Mark as the Y, and then, you have, the X and the Z and then what? Okay. So you were going to double everybody else and force Lamar to go to, the Proches or Duvernays of the world because of the fact that backside guy now is the nickel corner or the nickel safety, and they feel good about the matchup. You better feel good about the matchup and win. And,
I feel really good about James Proche on a safety at any given moment. You just see in the way that he feels like he's attacking. His mentality as a receiver is to be attacking the defense. And I think that's something that this team needs, like mentally in their wide receiver core. Just it felt like Hollywood would just go down on first contact almost every time, and you just didn't see him fight enough on the field.
Well, now in Hollywood's defense, I mean, he's not the largest of guys, and what I mean by that, that's just not his game to be aggressive and be the Anquan Bolden kind of a guy, and he's more along the lines of he would be the definition of a finesse receiver. A Hall of Fame finesse receiver that I played with was Marvin Harrison, of the Colts, who had just great 4 low, 4.3 high speed, amazing route runner, got open, and I remember many a time he'd catch the ball and he'd go right on down. But, the added was he was doing that because basically you need him in a game more than you need him trying to fight for 3 extra yards because the next play he's going to score. I think what you're saying and what a lot of fans are saying, and I kind of co-sign it, for Hollywood, he didn't necessarily get into a rhythm and create separation on a consistent enough basis or truly ran by guys. And so he became that, deep threat guy. Everybody remembers, the Detroit game where he had the big drops. He did redeem himself. I felt, in Denver, he came back strong in that game. But, I think there was a lot of up and down. And the story isn't written for him. Obviously he's no longer Raven, but I think the bigger picture is, for the big plays to occur in this offense, yeah, you do need that guy that can be physical and muscle and get away from that first defender trying to bring you down.
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. Just while we're on the topic of Hollywood, what did you think of that trade? I mean, obviously, there's no way that we can actually know until the rubber meets the road and we see how Linderbaum does and how he does out there. But just from an former NFL player's perspective, when you look at what we got and what Arizona got, do you view that as a net positive?
I think it is. I guess, here's where people maybe might want to have me hating on Hollywood. I'm not. I think that he like, as he said, he just didn't fit in the offense. It is surprising in some regards because of the fact that, you have Lamar Jackson, and if that's your dude, like, bruh, I'm doing everything I can to make sure I'm on the same page with him. I heard some reports about, his work ethic during the week of practices and all that. So, that can definitely affect you and have, a negative effect on you as far as some of your timing, even when Lamar isn't in there. Now, he's going to have every opportunity in Arizona because that is not a tight end dominant offense. That is a open it up receiver. Hey, let's sling it type of offense and see what Kyler Murray can bring to the table for Lamar or for Hollywood. So I wish Marquise well in that regards. I think Linderbaum, the fact that everyone is talking about him. Excuse me. Everyone is talking about him because of the fact that his measurables were like, well, if his arms were a little bit longer, he'd have been a tackle. So right away, that shows athleticism, that shows movement. He just didn't have the DNA. I would have been up to mom, dad, what the heck? I'm a sinner. Oh, you couldn't have stretched my arms when I was a baby. Look how much money the sinners are making compared to tackles, Mom. Mom. You took me off the breastfeeding nipple too soon. Gosh, Dad, what are you thinking? When I was a little boy, you put me in a doggone high chair and didn't feed me the good nutrients to let my arms grow. So I'm happy for him that he has this opportunity to, be a stud. And if that's the case, like, that's, again, bully ball win-win, because 2019, we can talk about Lamar all you want, which we can. But, man, that offensive line, good God, man, it just seemed like, bruh, not only did they have the in-sync capabilities, but I remember when they played against New England at home, and my goodness, it was just a clinic up front. Like, everybody was just on the same page, and this is a New England team that had Hightower. I think Hightower was.
I mean, they were undefeated. They were like the NFL's best defense by a crazy margin. Hightower.
Thank you. Yeah. Like
Gilmore,
and Calvin Noy. Oh my, yes. Those guys are like assignment oriented and really just like very, very cerebral in their diagnosis, and then they just let it fly. And the fact that you had an offensive line do what they do, that says an awful lot. So again,
who was the offensive coordinator who schemed all that and made it work? Right?
Greg Roman. We're still here. Oh my God, we're still here. Holy wow!
Thank the Lord somehow.
I mean, it's funny. I feel like on the podcast, like, a lot of times on the pod, I'd be talking about, like, I'm kind of a Hollywood apologist for a good part of the season because he was producing when Lamar was healthy. It was when Lamar was out that, that's when those not getting in those reps hurt, like you said. But, it's just, it's tough to have a guy want to leave, right? The second time that's happened to the Ravens recently with a really, really good player, an ascending player. I don't know about really, really good for Hollywood, but ascending players for sure in both in Orlando and Hollywood. And it's just a tough situation too. Like they want to leave. And what are you supposed to do as a team? I mean, I really respect the Ravens for kind of helping their players facilitate what they want, even though they do it, they work it out so that it works out for the Ravens. But
who is our boy who even left the tight end?
Hayden Hurst.
Hayden. Yeah.
And
I
he was a
liked
part of that
Hayden,
offense.
man. Golly, man, that dude. Oh, that Bills game when he took that what was supposed to be maybe a 10, 12-yard, route completion at the most. He just took it to the hizzy. And that was bully ball. Like, my goodness, man. That's why I'm like, all right, Kohler kind of looks like it. He looks like he could be an upgrade over, Nick Boyle as far as and Nick has proven himself league-wise. So, that's a bonus. But I'm just saying, coming out, Nick had to kind of establish himself. Nick is our Delaware. He's from Delaware, right?
Mm-hmm.
You did, yeah. Okay, yeah. He kind of had to, get his feet wet, prove himself. I think Kohler, has a little bit of advantage in that regards, coming into the league. So that's what I mean by that. But yeah, the bottom line is, I think this should be pretty exciting. And to your point, that's where Eric DaCosta and company, and when I say and company, John Harbaugh and them are saying, all right, we'll reluctantly accommodate you, but they're not going to just sit on their hands and not look at the bigger picture and try to replace them.
So again, we'll kind of switch back here and go back to Lamar. I'm assuming you did watch his press conference last week at the end of both
Yeah.
So, I mean, we heard every question was about the contract. And
I had a conversation.
It seemed, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we have a conversations. But it seems like kind of a mixed bag, because he did say, I plan on being in Baltimore my whole career. But at the same time, when he was asked about committing to training camp in week 1 without a contract, it was, I don't know, we're having discussions. Now, in that moment, for people who did watch the press conference, which I'm assuming is everybody listening to us right now, it seemed like he might have been kind of trying to just brush off the contract talk altogether, like just very like, I don't know, we're having discussions. But obviously, every headline in the country ran with that, I don't know, and it's all over everywhere, and it kind of spiraled out of control there. So I was just kind of wondering what you made of the whole thing, and really where they stand right now, the team and him.
The tough part is the fact that he's doing his own contract, and it's unconventional, and that's fine. He's an unconventional person when it comes to the way he looks at his career. I just think the big picture, Lamar and Eric. Eric has to walk a fine line, because typically you you talk bad about the guy to get the money lower. Yeah, Lamar, your agent, which is you, we want to go back to the game in which you threw the ball the wrong person and got intercepted. So you're like, you can't talk to Lamar like that. Like, you can't talk bad about him, and so you're gonna have those discussions, and so
as you learned last week.
yeah. Okay, I'm trying to help out the scenario. Y'all think I'm trying to hurt him? What the world? But no, I just think that it's a scenario where for Lamar, it is a much to do about nothing. With that comment, I think it's more along the lines like, look, I don't know. I think it was more like, I don't know, like just about we gonna get paid.
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about this. I just don't know it right now. I know you want to know it all, but you're not going to know it all. And I think that's what what kind of that tone, and I'm just here, so I won't get fined, kind of take on it with the Marshawn Lynch kind of slant to it with his reply. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was brilliant. I didn't think he needed to reveal anything and make things worse for himself. I mean, shoot. Ravens ain't talking. Why should I? I don't need to go into the news media and let everybody know my business and my plans. And I appreciate it. Lamar being his own agent and being clandestine with it, and that's good. Good for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing you kind of feel like is he has this social media presence and personality. It's kind of goofy. He's responding to people on Twitter. He's posting things on his Instagram, yumammy, whatever. But he's a smart cookie. I mean, you see him think and kind of be ready for all these questions. And, you wonder if he has people advising him. Is it just his mom, whatever? But the fact of the matter is he's a smart cookie. He's well aware of the situation. He knows what's going on. All the people telling him, Lamar, you're crazy to show up to training camp without a contract, this and that. He's like, you know what? You guys do you, and I'm going to do me. And I think that that's just something. It's a little bit of an uncomfortable area, I'm sure, for fans. I'm sure for DaCosta, he'd definitely prefer Lamar be a little bit more conventional in this way. But at the same time, it's just kind of the world we're living in right now, that it's Lamar's world and we're all living in it. And so he does kind of get to set these boundaries a little bit. And honestly, good for him for having the wherewithal to really carve his own path. I think that's something that not a lot of athletes always get a chance to do. And he's really taking reins of his career by doing so.
Kind of almost NBA-ish, the way the players that have established themselves and given themselves an opportunity for leverage, take advantage of the leverage. And I think, Lamar is taking advantage of the leverage. The leverage game is a serious one. You're talking generational wealth. You're talking, an opportunity to, like, for example, when he was talking about do you look at Deshaun Watson's contract? And he's like, nah, I'm not going to try to worry about, what they're doing over there. That's not for me. I think that was more along the lines of like, yeah, personality wise, all the other stuff, meh. But I do know this. I like the fact that it was fully guaranteed, and 45 million of it, we looking at, and it's a benchmark of just, I'm living large. So the fully guaranteed element of it all, I know he's aware of kind of the way in which things are going. So we'll see how it all unfolds. But the bottom line is, he for right now is in full command of everything.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Watson contract. So if it wasn't more complicated, or if it couldn't have been more complicated before that, now it's just even crazier. Because, I love Lamar. I don't know if I see the Ravens making that kind of move in terms of the guaranteed money. In terms of total, absolutely, I could see them giving him the same contract. But with Eric DaCosta, it's always right player, right price. And it's been, it's made fans bash their head against the wall for some years, and there's guys we want in free agency. And then you go see him sign other places, like even just as recently as Bobby Wagner this year. So it's an interesting situation overall. And it's one that I'm sure we'll continue to talk about for months until something happens with it one way or the other. Before we get out of here, I did want to touch a little bit on the defense and just where you think they'll rank amongst the rest of the league this year. Obviously last year was an absolute nightmare, but on paper, there's a lot of reinforcements coming between the guys who were hurt that will be back, the free agent signings like Marcus Williams, and of course the draft. But nothing is guaranteed, as we know. There's no guarantee that Peters is going to come back and be, 100% of what he was. There's no guarantee that Kyle Hamilton is going to be this generational, once-in-a-lifetime safety, even though it looks that way so far. He looks great, but really there's no guarantee. So I guess I'm just kind of wondering checking the pulse on where you think this defense is going to be this year.
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying. You're right. OTAs, you can get really good understanding offensively, is a lot of the timing and the rhythm of things, but defensively it's kind of still somewhat up in the air. I like what they've done, as far as McDonald and implementing his defense, the way what he wants to do. I think it's really super cool the way he is being. When I say super cool, I think his educationing, and I'm smart. The way he's educating the players on the entirety of the defense, and the way the guys have responded, like, yo, this is good. This is what I need to know. So things become interchangeable. You have to simplify it as well, and then you grow and advance it. So he's clearly done that. I'm very optimistic on the fact that he's been able to do that. And it's just a matter of, okay, cool. If you get those guys back healthy, sky's the limit for this defense. Get those guys back healthy. I don't see anyone stopping that defense. Marlon Humphreys has gone on record even on his shows and stuff, talking about the 2000 team. He's like, man, I just didn't know how incredibly badass they were. And yeah, they were some badass dudes, but the chemistry and the genuine, like, looking after one another, accountability that they had within themselves in the locker room was second to none. And that's what separated them. And I get the sense this team kind of is having that making. You don't feel like there's this, I'm just going to be out for me kind of a mentality. So I think get the guys back healthy and goodness gracious, sky's the limit.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite sayings in football is iron sharpens iron, right? You've got this exciting offense, you've got this really, really good defense, and they're just spending all this time in training camp practicing against each other. I think the thing that gets me really excited is, you're a wide receiver. I'm sure you get this. Getting a chance to practice against these really good cornerbacks. You played with some great cornerbacks in Baltimore. Like, it makes you a better receiver and vice versa. And so I think that, getting those reps in, I think that having Proshi and Wallace and Bateman, Bateman burned Marlon multiple times in training camp last season. I mean, it was crazy to see him come into the NFL and just burn one of the best corners in the league right away. What do you think, like, as a receiver who, you study cornerbacks, what do you think of the cornerback group? Do you think the rookies, like Jalen Armour-Davis is a guy who I've liked for a long time. Like, do you think that he's going to be able to come in and, these guys will be impact defenders in year one? Or do you think it's really going to be more on Peters, Humphrey, Fuller, the vets, plus probably Brandon Stevens at cornerback this year?
I'm always leaning towards vets when it comes to corner play. I think, Marcus Peters, his intuition and how he plays is just second to none. He's a calculated gambler, and I'm hoping that he can come back. Fuller is intriguing, how much he has left in the tank. But clearly, he brings a quality knowledge to the game. And I think, when you look at, for example, what, Cincinnati did to this group, there's the need for, veteran players that can decipher, the different routes. But then also, when you bring in an aggressive blitz, you better believe you better be in great position. Cincinnati rules the roost, and they earned it. So be it. Pittsburgh and them trying to, Claypool is reunited with our boy Boykin, and even if he is, or he thinks he is a top 3 guy, and good for him. You're top 3, 43rd person. You
on his own team, he's maybe a top 3 receiver.
There you go.
That's as far as I'm willing to market.
And like, he's good, but I saw him say that. I was like, look, I'm all about self-confidence, but this is self-delusion, buddy.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think he when he concentrates, my God, man, that dude, he's a nightmare. But then the other times I just think that he loses concentration. And again, the sky's the limit for them. But for 2 weeks out of the year, I'm hoping, Williams and Peters and Humphrey and the rest of the crew, like, we're shutting them down. So a lot will obviously depend on up front too. Calais hopefully will be giving some of them young bucks some wisdom to help them, Jones and company, and Matabike. Hopefully he gets some wisdom on, how to continue to improve his pass rush and get to the quarterback. Patrick Queen's talking about his 3rd year being his year. So, long live the Queen, and let's let this thing go. Be self-assured and confident in your game. We don't know about Chuck Clark just quite yet, so hopefully, Chuck is with us. Please, please get to be with us.
It's funny you say God. It's funny. It's funny you say God save the Queen, because it's actually my mom's birthday today, and she was born in England. So I'll give her a little shout out. Happy birthday, Mom!
Mom, yeah, that's what's up. Raise a fine young lad. You raise a fine young lad. Tea and crumpets.
But yeah, even just like going back to the defense, even when you think about like the pass rush, like obviously we don't know when David Ajabo will be back. Hopefully it'll be much sooner than later, but him and Owe is probably going to be one of the better tandems long-term in football. And that's obviously a position that we've been complaining about for a while now. Just last week, they brought in Jason Pierre-Paul for a visit. It doesn't look like he's really going to make a decision until closer to camp. Just that's pretty much what all veterans do at this point. It feels like, especially that older. And I can't blame them. Hey, they absolutely deserve it, and they've earned it with the years that they've put in. So yeah, it's a promising time for the defense. And the biggest thing about it is just going to be that chip on their shoulder that they're all coming in with this year. The fact about how bad things got last year, it's sort of like a, y'all must have forgot sort of thing. And I think they're all going to be playing with that attitude that really just comes with being on the Ravens defense anyway. But now it's just going to be, turned up to the max.
Yeah, the David Ajabu thing, that from a training aspect, when you pattern in linear movement and you pattern in linear, you train the heels to be into the ground. That's where you put yourself at risk. Unfortunately, in a max velocity way, that's where he damaged his Achilles. And that's what I'm railing against, as far as heels down, training, reverse gear movement. But I think at the same time, fortunate for him, if what I think the Ravens are doing from a rehabilitative standpoint and some of the protocols that they've established with, the Ben Watson, Steve Smiths, Terrell Suggs of the world from an Achilles standpoint, then I think, you're right. Adafe and him should be sitting back and we're going to have to do something, because I'm telling you, Joe Burrow, wow, did he stand in the pocket more than a few times and just pick the heck out of our defensive backs apart. So, yeah, whew, let's see it. I'm excited for all of them.
Absolutely. So one more question before we let you go here. And we also just want to thank you so much for joining us, Q. Honestly, very much an honor to be sitting here with you today. Something that 10-year-old me would be going freaking crazy about if you had told me this. But just kind of wrap things up on a fun note. Who is the corner that gave you the most headaches during your time in the NFL?
Yeah, this is funny. My brother and I, we were talking about this the other day when he came into town to visit. And I just quickly, I was like, yeah, Dale Carter. So Dale Carter played for the Kansas City Chiefs at the time. And I think Herm Edwards was the defensive back coach, I think. Anyway, the bottom line was they played a ton of man-to-man. His brother, Jake Reed, they both same mom and dad. Jake took his mom's last name and Dale, I think, took his dad's, or vice versa, whatever. But Jake would tell us these stories about Dale, and Dale marched to the beat of his own drum. And Dale was kind of a hothead off the field. And I was always under the impression like, yo, you F with me on the field, you going to F with me on the field. But when the game's over with, we good, we cool. So I was like, wait a minute, Dale did what? He went out to the bus and did what? He wanted to fight and this and that. And blah, blah, blah. I was like, what are we talking about here? Like, what? Wait a minute, what? So that got in the back of my mind. We used to scrimmage the Kansas City Chiefs when I was with the Minnesota Vikings. I was like, man, this dude is like, something ain't right. And real talented defensive back, just dynamic player. And I remember he was probably the guy that challenged me the most. But at the same time, Deion, I mean, we played against him when I was with the Vikings, and he was, by far just head and shoulders above the rest, very cerebral player mixed with an enormous amount of talent that, oh, by the way, did a lot of spiral energy, natural movement. And, that's something that made him such a dynamic player as well. So those two guys, Dale Carter and Deion Sanders.
Fun fact, Dale Carter is Nigel Warrior, former Ravens undrafted free agent, his father. I didn't know that. I just saw it I was just looking him up.
Let me say that again.
So Nigel Warrior's dad, Dale Carter, is Nigel Warrior's dad.
What a small world, man.
Really?
Isn't that crazy? So, I mean, it says that on Pro Football. It's not Wikipedia either. It says it on Pro Football Reference. I trust that. I mean, I'm double checking just in case. But
wow, no, that's really cool.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, his son is Nigel Warrior. That's a pretty random connection.
So his uncle Jake will be telling him an awful lot on how to what receivers look like and what they're going to be doing against him, and he's going to be handling his business.
And how to get in their heads, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
My dad's gonna come beat you up.
Yeah,
love it.
All right,
Kill, you want to take us home here, brother?
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been great to have you and chatting with you. And, every time I talk to people about this season, but I think more so than after this episode than any others, I am just so excited to see what this team does.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And appreciate you guys, let me jump on. The thing that cracks me up is, our fan base is a rabid fan base. And whether we talking about, trying to keep Lamar healthy and then all of a sudden turning the wrong way, or talking about Greg Roman, this is all about the intelligence of it all. And hopefully we'll be able to break some of the the not so educated element part of our Ravens flock, because I know that there's a strong educated portion of us that we love our Ravens and we just want to see them do well. And bully ball is back.
Let's go.
Sounds good. Yeah, if we're winning, I think everyone will be happy. Ron, as always, thanks, and Q again, thanks again. Have a great rest of your week.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.